All
All
right,
right,
we
we're
are
going live.
live. Hey, welcome everybody to Hump Day Hangouts. This is episode number 499. So, Bradley, I think we got to cook up something special for next week, but just kidding. We've got a couple things in the works. You definitely want to stick around and watch the entire episode today. We've got some great stuff along with a special guest. But next week, also be sure to stop by. We've got another guest coming in, and that's going to be episode 500. If you've been around watching us for any amount of time, you know that we always do something special on big episodes like that. And next week is going to be no exception with big number 500. So, with that said, wanted to say hi to the guys real quick, and then turn things over to Bradley and let him introduce our special guest today. So, Chris, how you doing today?
Doing good, just back from Spain. Quite happy, quite relaxed. So happy to be here.
Nice. All right. And Bradley, you might be doing stuff in the background, but you want to say hi to everybody?
No, I'm good. I just we're getting a hell of a storm and I'm on a satellite connection. And if I enable my video, it's gonna kill the bandwidth. So I'm trying to save a little bit. Is it audio coming through all right?
Yeah, sounds really good.
Okay,
I'm just
good.
going to say one more thing and then I'll kind of turn it over to you to introduce our mystery guest here. But just wanted to say if you're watching us on a YouTube replay, be sure to subscribe. Best way to stay up to date with us as well, and not only the Hump Day Hangouts, but also the videos that we create out of Hump Day Hangouts is to subscribe and enable notifications. That way too, you can come ahead of time and ask your questions by going to semanticmastery.com/HDHO. And there you can watch the replay as well as click the button and ask your questions ahead of time because we get it. Not everybody is available at 4 p.m. Eastern every Wednesday. But that's a great way to do it, or just come join us live. Either way works. So with that
Isn't
said,
is isn't AI Bradley on that page too?
AI Bradley is there, and I saw that some people have been asking him some really cool questions, but even more importantly, getting some very good answers. So good job, Bradley.
Yeah.
All
No,
right, well,
no
Bradley,
problem,
I'm
man.
gonna I'm gonna turn it over to you. You want to introduce our guest and get going from there?
This is Attache from Hyperke, and I want to give Attache a warm welcome because I hired Attache a little over 2 years ago now. Isn't that right, Attache? I think it was April of 2022
Yeah,
when we started working together.
that's
I think
correct. Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
And I hired him to do cold email, well, appointment setting, but primarily through cold email for my white label link building agency, Semantic Links. As I've talked about before, guys, I manage the cold emailing for my local SEO agency, but I didn't have the bandwidth to do it for both. And so I hired Attache, which his company Hyperkey works with agencies to do appointment setting. And probably other businesses too, Attache. I'll let you talk a little bit about that. But it's been phenomenal. I can't say enough good things about Attache. Anybody that ever asks about, well, what do you use for appointment setting? I always reference him, and it's just been amazing. I've got a lot of growth that I can attribute specifically to Attache and his team, and it's just been a pleasure working with you, Attache. And so, with that, say hi to everybody.
All right. Awesome. Thanks so much for the warm welcome, Bradley. And thanks for having me today. So for today, like I was chatting with Bradley, and the whole idea with today's session is talking about like strategy and offer creation, and the non repeatable, the non outsourceable stuff when it comes to your cold email outreach and customer acquisition. So Bradley, should we get right into it, or is that
Yes,
something
sir.
else?
Let's jump right into it. That's what people are here for. And it's just so you know, I just finished a 3 day workshop today with a number of people that joined to learn about my cold email system for my local SEO agency. And so I told everybody on the group, hey, make sure you attend today's Hump Day Hangouts because Attache, who does the appointment setting for my white label agency, he's going to be on, and it's very valuable information. So we ought to have pretty good attendance today.
Okay, that's perfect. So let me just dive right into it. And
Sure.
it's good that, it sounds like this is perfect timing if you're already talking about code email, because we can just we can skim over the parts you already covered, and we can talk about stuff that, that we've found from all the testing we're doing, or we'll learn from all that testing. So I'll just start with a little intro. Like Bradley said, so when Bradley hired us, we only did appointment setting. Now, as a company, we've grown to do a lot more. So not just appointments, but also sales consulting, helping you build processes that let you convert leads that you get from outbound. Because one of the biggest challenges that we encountered was that people were getting appointments, but they were not closing deals. So we do that, but at the core of the business is, yes, appointment setting, cold outreach via email and other channels. And just a quick intro on what we do. So every month we're sending around 1 million emails. We're working with a lot of data, which allows us to catch trends quickly, and we're able to see what's going on with the industry. So anything and everything that I'm going to talk about, including the examples that I use in, on this call, is based off of things that we've seen and stuff that we've tested. Over the last 4 or 5 years of doing this, we've been, we've helped our clients generate, over $8 million in revenue, including some deals with enterprise level companies like Walmart and 7-Eleven, Blue Origin, stuff like that. So with that intro out of the way, I'll just dig right into it. As anyone who would have attended Bradley's course knows, there's really, like, if you were to think about it, for any outbound system, there's like 3 things that you need to be good at in order to successfully operate the system, right? You need the technical setup in place. You need to have the right strategy, which covers target audience, your offers, your messaging angles, how you position yourself, and you need response management. So technical setup, it's not super complicated. Like as long as you know what needs to be done, you can outsource this, you can have this done, and then have someone monitor it for you. Similarly, response management, you can hire someone to manage responses for you. It is really, as business owners or as SEO agencies, as consultants, it's really the strategy that you need to be constantly testing stuff, and where you need to ensure that you're using the right message, the right angles. And this will really make or break the success as long as you have the other two parts of the process or other 2 parts of the system dialed in. So on this call, I'll really just talk about strategy. And before, like if you have questions around the other 2, happy to take those as well at the end. But the content in this talk is really all about cold email strategy and what to testing the right things, creating offers, stuff like that. Now, before we talk about the actual messaging, when you say cold email, most people think, oh, it is the messaging that I need to get. I need to write the best message. And I've consulted with a lot of people who would go in and start applying direct response copywriting principles, creating a headline, writing 3-page long emails. That does not work. While that might work very well for opted-in lists, that does not work when you're sending cold outreach. So there are 4 key principles of cold outbound that I would want anybody doing outbound to keep in mind before they implement a system. The first one, and the most important one, is that with your message, especially if it's a cold outreach message, you are not trying to sell your product or service. So your first email should not be talking about selling your service. All you're trying to sell is the next steps in the sales process. So when you're doing outbound, you need to bear in mind that this is not one transaction. You're in the B2B space. When you're doing outbound, this is one activity in the sales process. Now, depending on the product or the service you're selling, the next steps could be a call. It could be you doing an audit. It could be you sending them a Loom video going over their website. It could be you sending them some other lead magnet. It could be anything. And you're free to use your imagination and your understanding of your market to come up with these. But your email should sell one and only one outcome, which is the prospect progressing to the next steps. You're not trying to get them to purchase over email. If someone really wants to purchase, they'll go to your website and buy, or they'll tell you that I'm in the market to buy, tell me what's the price, depending on your product, obviously. So that's principle number 1. And this is a mistake a lot of people make. Number 2 is sending emails without putting yourselves in the prospect's shoes. And I'll go back to my example about writing emails that are super long. Now, if you're opted into someone's list, for example, if you're part of Bradley's list and you receive an email from Bradley, you are going to read it because you know who Bradley is. You trust him. Keyword being trust. You trust him and you know he knows his shit. But if someone who you do not know were to reach out to you, you're not going to spend 5 minutes take 5 minutes out of your day to read an email that they wrote, even if it has the most valuable information in the world, because you don't trust that person. So this is why your email needs to be short. Similarly, you need to stand out because the person does not know you. If you say something that makes them want to read the rest of your email in your first sentence, you are much more likely to see success. You can do this by talking to their pain points. You can do this by using terminology that makes them feel that you understand their industry. You can you can use creative opening sentences that we'll talk about later in this in a bit. You can use creative opening sentences in your email, stuff like that. But the idea is to make sure that you're putting yourself in your prospect's shoes when you're coming up with a strategy. This is not about you selling something. This is about how the prospect would perceive you when they see a random email in their inbox on a Wednesday at 4:20 p.m., right? So that's number two. Number three is curiosity, greed, and fear. So if you build your email offers or if you build your email messaging around one of these three, you are way more likely to see success. And I'll quickly go over three examples. So curiosity is, let's say you figured out a system, or in your messaging, you say that we figured out a system that will allow you to run ads as a CBD brand, and you send this to CBD brands. A lot of the brands that you reach out to are going to be interested because CBD brands are not allowed to run ads usually on Meta and Google. Their accounts keep getting banned, and this is the problem they've dealt with forever. And if you say that you found a solution, they are going to listen to you. Similarly, the second one is greed. So if you're offering something really valuable upfront for free, people are going to people are going to take you up for that offer. In the past, we've tried offers where you offer gift cards, you offer money in exchange for someone's time to do an audit. Lots of people respond, lots of people sign up. And when you do offers like this, especially when you're offering money, the biggest concern business owners have is, what if I pay 5 people and no one converts? Well, this is very interesting because this is how numbers work in sales. Let's say you're selling a $5,000 a month service and you're offering people $100 to do an audit. Now, you know that when you do an audit, the quality of insights you present, those are like your audit is so valuable that at least 2 out of 5 people, or 40% or 20% of the people that you get on the audit call convert. So sure, you're spending $500, maybe even $1,000 doing audits for 10 people. But even if you end up closing one of them, you paid $1,000. One person closed, and now you have them signed up on a $5,000 a month service. So at the end, it's still ROI positive, and you're getting responses from people who might not have otherwise responded because there was no incentive for them to respond. So leverage greed, leverage curiosity, leverage fear. Now, if you know that there's something that's changed in the industry, and this is really good for IT service companies or companies that sell compliance software, or even as SEO companies, or Google PPC companies, Performance Max, changing SEO regulations in the last 6 months. Pick on something that your prospects think has changed in the last few months, or that they're scared of, and use that as a hook in your email. So we did this when the iOS 14 update came out, and we used this for a good 3 months. Talking about iOS 14 versus not talking about iOS 14, we see twice as many responses, just because this was relevant back then and people were scared because they're, everything like Facebook advertising back then was a shit show. So leverage these three. And the final one is follow up. This is advice you can listen to anybody. I'm sure Bradley must have told you this too. Anyone doing cold email or any form of outbound, any form of B2B sales will tell you to follow up. And I'll just I can't talk about cold email principles without stating this. So follow up. If someone has not responded, send them 2 to 4 follow-ups, not too many, because you need to be mindful of your own email health, email reputation. So don't send too many follow-ups. Keep it soft. You can hit the same people up again 2 months later. But after someone responds with interest, you're free to follow up with them as long as it takes to either get a yes or a no. So they should either tell you to go away, or they should proceed with the next steps that you want them to move to. Now, with warm follow-ups, because we're doing it at such scale, we're sending like hundreds of thousands of emails, we don't indefinitely follow up with these people. But if you're doing it only for yourself, you're free to send them 1 email every week, or start with a tighter cadence, say you follow up with them every 1 day, every 2 days, every 3 days, every 4 days, and then you start sending them 1 email a week. Don't give up on these people. We've had people, initially when we were starting out, we were doing indefinite follow-ups when our overall volumes were lower. And we've had people convert 3.5, 4 months down the line, just because we never stopped talking to them. Now, the main thing I want to talk about today is testing. And when you're testing things, you're really just testing messaging, target audience, and technical setup, right? Now, I'll get into details of what you want to test with all three of, with each of these broad headlines. And before I do that, it's important that we understand how you would structure an outbound message. So here's an example. And this is one of our clients. They are in the B2B manufacturing space. And they manufacture machine components. And this was the email we used to get them an appointment with Blue Origin. So parts label 1, 2, 3, and 4. Number 1 is some sort of relevance or an opener that makes the prospect want to look at your email. So we talk about this is a news event, and you can use automation tools like AI-based tools like Clay to fetch information on this. And that's kind of stuff that's out of the scope for this call. But you can use tools to scrape this information, scrape news events, and then use that as your opener for anyone working at that company. So we talk about how they received $2.8 million in bids. That's number 1, relevant intro. Number 2 is the offer USP. And number 3 is social proof. So 2 and 3, this is where we're talking about something very specific to this customer avatar. We're saying that as someone who does XYZ at the company, which is their job description, have you suffered from, or do you deal with pain? The pain being high lead times while ordering. And then we give them social proof. We say that, tooling other people just like you are using our process to get a desirable result and reduce turnaround times. So we're doing social proof, and we're sharing our offer, both of those points 2 and 3. And number 4 and 5 is really just a call to action, where we're not trying to sell them on anything. We're not asking them to sign up for a trial or to do a demo. All we're saying is worth exploring. So people respond to softer CTAs better in many cases, especially if if your target audience is an enterprise company. So keep these 4 components in mind. You don't have to get all 4 of these right in order for your email campaign to be successful. But if you can get at least 2, so if you can combine a relevant intro with a super strong offer, your campaigns are going to print calls like nothing you've ever seen before. If you just get the relevant intro right, you will get responses, but you need one of the other 3 in order to be able to get, to actually get calls from that campaign. You could get the intro and the CTA right. If your CTA is really powerful, say you're giving them something for free, or you want to send them a really valuable video, you will still get responses. If you offer to pay them, you will still get lots of responses. So get 2 of these 4 components right, and your campaigns will begin printing calls. Now, let's talk about testing. This is like once you figure out a lot of this stuff, right? If you do cold email for a while, and even if you do it only for your business, eventually all of this will become second nature to you. So if someone were to start, if someone were to wake you up at 3 a.m. in the morning and tell you to write a cold email script, you would just end up following this structure. So this is stuff you can learn once and forget about it. The same applies to these principles. But when it comes to testing, these are things that you want to be constantly doing in order to stay ahead of the curve when it comes to your results as someone who's running outbound. And when you think of testing, a lot of people, again, especially people who come from the marketing background or people who've been involved with direct response marketing, they think of testing stuff like subject lines. They think of changing a couple of words here and there in the email and seeing whether that changes something. I've had people talk about tests where they say hi and hello versus good morning, good afternoon. So while these tests might get you some results, while there might be a slight edge to using one over the other, you will never find out true impact, because unlike other channels, unlike Facebook ads or SEO, where you're quickly testing against thousands of eyeballs, with cold email, you're probably sending like 400 emails per day if you're like most people. So you're not getting enough data, and without enough data, it's hard to tell whether good morning is better than hi. What you want to be doing instead is testing more impactful things. And those are the sub points I've outlined here. So when you're testing messaging, you want to be testing the messaging angle, your offer, and your call to action, right? So I'll explain what all 3 of these, what each of these means in a bit. So your angle is how you position yourself and how you position your offer in the email. And here are a few examples, right? So let's say you're an agency that offers SEO. which most of you are, or you're a consultant who offers SEO. Your message angle, one of the angles you could take, which is one of the most obvious, is you could say, hey, I'll help you get inquiries, or I'll help you get new customer quotes, or leads, without spending money on paid ads. You could go a step further, talk about how paid ads are super expensive, or how CPMs have been rising, whatever. But your angle is leads without spending on ads. Another angle you could use with the exact same service, exact same target audience, is you could say, I'll help you rank on page 1 in Google. Again, take it a step further, say, I'll help you rank on page 1 for these 3 keywords within 90 days. So the more specific you make it, the better it is. But the angle here is ranking on page 1 on Google. Another angle could be you ask them a question. You say that I saw that for XYZ keyword, you're ranking on page 4. Is that something you're aware of? Ask them a question, or would you like me to send you a video talking about how you could rise from page 4 to page 1? So ask them a question about a pain point. And you could even ask something super simple. You could say, hi name, have you ever, are you aware of how you rank on Google for XYZ keywords? Or have you ever considered optimizing your Google Maps listing for reviews? Or do you ask customers for reviews? Ask a super simple question, you send them a 2-sentence email, and you should be able to predict their response. If you want to simplify this even further, let's say you're reaching out to roofing companies. You reach out to a roofing company, or a lawyer, and you tell that law firm, you say, hi, I saw you on Google Maps. You have 4.5-star rating, super impressive. Was wondering if you have the bandwidth to take on more personal injury cases. That's it. So this is your question. Now, most law firms will respond with a yes or no to this, depending on whether or not they have the bandwidth. So that's your predictable response. Now, once you get the predictable response, you can put these people into a follow-up sequence that says the next steps. So the first step was getting a yes out of them. Say the law firm says, yeah, we're taking personal injury cases. Then you follow up with them, you tell them, okay, that's great. So we've recently worked with a couple of other law firms who were also, who also wanted more personal injury cases. We did XYZ for them, and now, they have more inquiries than they can handle. One example. So again, another question, familiar tech, predictable response, follow-up, similar strategy. Now let's talk about testing offers. And this is important because when you think of your own offer, there are 3 types of offers we've seen work well. Number 1 is a specialized offer where you give the prospect exactly what they want. An example is a lot of companies deliver leads, but businesses complain that these leads are not qualified, or they don't show up, or they don't convert. So if, as a company, you started calling those leads and making sure they were qualified, your offer is more powerful because you're giving your customer exactly what they want. Another potential offer could be offering something for free. Maybe you give them a free trial. Maybe you tell them, I'll do this for you. I'll get you the first 3 leads for free. If you're running PPC, say you tell them, I'll get you the first 3 leads for free. Look at those leads, try them out, and if it works, we'll get into a 12-month contract. Super powerful offer that will work. And the third thing you could do for your offer is reduce the risk on the prospect. So offer a money-back guarantee, or work on performance, do anything that makes it easier for the prospect to say yes, because they see no harm in doing it, right? So when you're creating offers, think along these 3 lines. Either make it super specific, offer something for free, or reduce the risk, like make it 0 risk. Then the third thing you want to test within your messaging is your call to action. Again, this is something we spoke about earlier. So you could ask for a sales call. You could offer a value add session, an audit. You could offer to send them a video or a lead magnet. Again, all of these are potential approaches. Now, one thing I want you to keep in mind is we're testing all of this. So, depending on the industry, depending on what you do, who you're reaching out to, one might work better than the others. So for some industries, you might find this works better. For some industries, you might find this works better. What you're trying to do is you're trying to test all of these and find out which one works the best for your target audience. So that is your objective. Speaking of target audiences, that is the second variable that I recommend testing. Now, a lot of people, when they think about, if you ask someone, and if you ask yourself the question, who do you work with? you'll say, I work with all small to medium-sized businesses in the US. A lot of people will say that. A lot of people will be more specific. They'll say, I work with all lawyers. I work with law firms. Or they will give you a couple of industries. They say law firms and roofing companies and landscapers, right? So when you're thinking of target audiences for cold outbound specifically, I'm not saying that you have to niche down. You don't if that's what works for you. But when you're writing email sequences, when you're creating email campaigns, your sequence should talk to one person. Like you need to write it as if you were writing to one person. So you need to be specific, which means when you're building your list, you need to take a list, you need to break it down into subsegments, and you need to test all of those subsegments. So this is where testing your target audience comes in. And variables that you could test, again, let's say you took a list of all the lawyers or all the roofers in the country. You broke it down by city or by state. Let's say, your hypothesis is that people that are located closer to you physically are more likely to respond. So maybe you start testing with that city. Or maybe your hypothesis is that if I reach out to a tier 1 city like New York or Los Angeles, they will probably have more personal injury cases. So let me reach out to lawyers in that city. So have a hypothesis, use that, and test target audiences based on that hypothesis, right? Again, the more specific you get, the better. So all lawyers or all roofers is not as effective as all lawyers in city, which is not as effective as all personal injury lawyers in city. So the more specific you can get with your list, the better the better your results will be. And then finally, this is something that a lot of people don't even think about, which is intent or trigger-based lists. Now, these lists tend to be smaller, but these are people that are already showing signs of being in the market for your service. So you want to just sit down and brainstorm how to generate these intent-based lists. And I'm not talking about intent data. If you use any of these popular list building tools, they'll give you intent data, which in our experience is often a hit or a miss. So, I wouldn't rely on that. But the kind of triggers that we like to use is, let's say you scrape the list of people who attended a certain event. It could be a LinkedIn event, it could be an event hosted elsewhere, it could be an in-person event. But if they attended an event that you can somehow relate to your service, they are more likely to respond to your outreach. Similarly, if someone's following a public figure, right? If someone's following a person who talks about your offer, you can reach out to everyone they're following, and you know that they're already interested in the offer. Of course, you might have to filter out certain people who you don't want to reach out to, but this is an intent signal. Similarly, if someone liked another person's post, and you can look at posts for influencers like Gary Vee or people who get lots of engagement on their post. If someone liked the post or commented on a post, they are a post that talks about something that you do. They are more likely to respond when you send them a message talking about the same thing. And a really good example in the last couple of years, we've seen trends on Twitter, on LinkedIn, where people would say that, I created this lead magnet. If you want this lead magnet, comment on this post or like this post. So those posts are gold mines, because now these people are already looking for lead magnets related to SEO. Let's just take an example. So all you need to do is reach out to them. They're already in the market for SEO. Not everybody that commented or liked is going to buy from the person that they commented for, because most of these people that get high engagement, their services are not for everyone. They're selling like $10, $15, $20,000 packages, and not everybody might end up buying from them. So you always have the opportunity to reach out to them and pitch your services. Third intent is, another intent signal is people hiring for certain roles, obviously applicable to lots and lots of industries. And this list is not exhaustive. So you can just stay on the lookout. You can keep coming up with more and more intent signals. The more you look at your business, the more you look at your prospects, the more intent signals you can come up with. But don't be the only piece of advice here is don't be lazy when it comes to scraping these lists, because often it's not straightforward, which is also why it's so effective. And the final variable that you can test is your technical setup itself. Now, I don't recommend anyone doing that unless you're seeing issues with your existing technical setup. If you're only getting started with cold outbound now, I would suggest you just stick to whatever Bradley has prescribed. Just follow that process and don't worry about the technical setup unless you are certain that is why your results are lagging. But if you were to test your technical setup, you could try using different email providers. You could try sending outreach over the weekends. You could try shortening or broadening your outreach window. And you could try not tracking opens and clicks in your emails. All of these are things that you can test. You could also try different cadences for your follow-ups, fewer or more follow-ups. All of that, those are valid variables to test. But again, I would suggest for anyone that's only starting out, I would suggest focus on testing messaging and target audiences, because those are the biggest levers that you can pull in order to influence your results. We're right on time. So
Yeah, man,
yeah,
that was gold. That was very, very well done, I have to say. Thank you.
absolutely. Hope this was valuable for people. And yeah, if anyone has questions, do we do Q&As here or?
Yeah, but I don't see any questions specifically. If anybody has any, go ahead and post them. We do have a lot of regular Hump Day Hangout questions to get through as well. So
Okay,
I need to have some time for that. But if any questions come in for sure, I'd say, well, in the next minute or two, I'll let you know. But I just want to point
sure.
out that, um, it's really amazing to see and compare, what I'm doing in my own local SEO agency with cold email and then what you guys do. And that presentation I just learned a lot from just now. And I've been doing cold email for 4 years. And what Atishay says is absolutely true, guys. It's the angle and the messaging, all of that is so much more important. The technical setup is actually very easy right now. I spent 5 months last year testing all different types of SMTP services and all this, and it's just workspace and instantly. I'm telling you, it's so much easier right now than it has been to get it set up properly. But it's the messaging, the contact list scraping, like you said, segmenting the list properly, sending out the proper messages and all that. And the whole point of the cold email sequence is to just get a reply. It's not a link. It's not trying to sell them. As Atishay just said, and Atishay, there's a book that I've read and listened to, actually didn't read it. It's called the Mindset of a Sales Warrior by Jason Forrest, and it's amazing. And one of the chapters in that book, and he talks about to not go into a sales call with the idea of I have to close this sale. Instead, it's what is the next step that I need this prospect, this contact to take to
Right,
move this sale forward, not to close the sale,
right,
but just to move it to the next step. And that's
right,
what you just said in your emails. Your email sequences are not to make a sale, not to pitch something that you want them to take action on, other than what is the next step that I want them to take to move it
right,
towards that. And
right,
that takes the pressure off of like, I got to craft this perfect email message that gets them to buy. No, you don't need to do that. All you got to do is ask them a question and get them to reply, because now you have direct communication with that person. And
right.
so like all of what you just said is just it's super valuable for those of us that are trying to generate leads for our own businesses. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure.
So as Will says, Atishay, I'm interested to know how you would change this for warm leads. It's a good question, Will.
Right. So let's say you have warm leads, and how, like, depends on how you generated those leads. Again, I would start by putting yourself in the prospect's shoes and how you generated them. Let's say we're talking about a lead that you spoke with and now they're ghosting you, right? Now, in a situation where they're ghosting you, depends on where in the sales cycle they are. Let's say they're ghosting you after the discovery call, right? Here, I would want to try and get a no out of them. So many people on the discovery, they are hesitant. They would say, "Yeah, this sounds great," but they don't actually have the budget for it. So you would start by sending them shorter emails. The first email would obviously a recap of the call, and send another email the next day, and start with cadences that are shorter in the beginning and increasing time gaps at the end until you get a no. You can even send super short emails saying, Will, is this of interest anymore? Or Will, should we close this for now? Or Will, we're about to close close this account for the quarter. Just try to get a no out of them. And when you're going for a no, a lot of people will come in and say yes. They will, and they'll give you an explanation. They'll say, "Oh no, I was super stuck up, super busy with X, Y, and Z. I'm still very interested. Let's touch base 2 weeks later." So that's number one, going for the no. Now, if they're ghosting you after the proposal, and you think that it's a good fit, you are sure. Oftentimes, when doing the proposal, you get a gut instinct that tells you that this is going to go through. You can have a sequence where you follow up with them, and then you put them into a longer term nurture sequence. So a nurture sequence is really just you sharing wins. Anytime you get a client a result, click a screenshot, send it to them, or in fact send it to all the people that are in your nurture sequence. So just keep showing them wins and say something like, we just had this client increase rank on page 1. And this reminded me of our conversation back then. How are things looking? Or,
That's
curious.
beautiful.
So
I've
stuff,
never thought of doing that. That's
right.
great.
So
We should. I'm going to implement that for tree service contractors immediately, because we can do that where we can show examples of tree contractors that we worked with that have gotten, significant improvements in short times, and just start sending those out as like, hey, we just did this for a client.
right.
That's great. I've never thought to do that.
Right.
It's awesome.
Absolutely. And this is like the scrappier it looks. So you don't have to, a lot of businesses, when we speak with them, when it comes to social proof, they wait to put together a pretty looking case study and, like a page on their website. It's better if it looks scrappy. So if it's like a text message chat screenshot where the client is saying good things about you, just screenshot that and send it to other people instead of, trying to put into a case study, because it should look like you just did it off the cuff. I was talking to Bradley today and it reminded me of you. Look what Bradley has achieved in the last 3 months. Would love to do something similar for you. That's it.
Yeah. 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 Just so everybody knows, I had about a 40, almost a 40% drop in monthly recurring revenue between December and March. And so I was scrambling to get that revenue back up. And Attaché last month, his Hyperke, his team and him, they just crushed it for me. They were booking like 5 and 6 sales calls per week last week or last month. And so I was very, very busy on sales calls last week, but I've recovered half of that loss because of that. And so that's, I was telling Attaché about that earlier today, guys. But yeah, it's amazing. And what's great about this kind of system, guys, is when you go into periods like what I did, where I lost almost 40% of my monthly recurring revenue, I reached out to Attaché. I was like, look, ramp this up, man, because I need some more calls. And he did it. And it was like, just like that, we booked my calendar way full. I even opened up an additional hour in the evenings and everything else. And all of that was because I needed it, and it solved the problem. Like at least mostly, I've recovered about half of it. So anyways, it's just, that's why I love this cold email service for my own agency. He's running it for Semantic Links, all of that, because it's almost like leads on demand. When we want more, we just increase volume, and it's a great system. So
Absolutely.
thank you, Attaché. Appreciate you very much, man. Real quick, again, can you show the top of that, or drop in chat? I don't know if you see, chat, the link to your site.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pull it up real quick.
Do you mean the Zoom chat? Like this
Yeah,
call chat?
well, yeah. If you put it in chat, I'll
Right.
put it in. It's just Hyper. Yeah, that's it. I'll put it up on mine. Hyperke.com. If anybody's interested, I'm going to put this in chat. There it is. So you guys get with Attaché. Let them know that you came from us, from Semantic Mastery. If you do, and he'll take good care of you, I promise. So
Absolutely. Appreciate this, Bradley.
right on, man. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you, man.
Thanks a lot.
I'll
Cheers.
talk to you soon.
Yep.
Okay, guys. I thought that was awesome. Adam or Chris, you guys want to, or Chris is in here. Adam, did you have anything you wanted to comment or chat, add to, or whatever?
Not right now. I'm busy in the background taking care of some of your DHA workshop stuff. I think we can mention that to people tomorrow. We'll be posting and sharing a little bit. If you missed out, we had a lot of people I know who missed the deadline for Bradley's DHA 3-day workshop. But we will have access to the replays available tomorrow. So either join the public group or get on the email list so you can be notified about that. But that'll be going out tomorrow.
Beautiful. Just so you guys know, we're probably going to do this again, probably every 6 or 12 weeks, something like that, where we'll do the 3-day workshop, especially like when they're in the process of an existing coaching cycle. So just so you guys are aware, the replays will be available too, but it always helps to attend live if you can. But yeah, we'll get that out tomorrow. So right on. Thanks, Adam. I'm going to grab the screen and get into questions. I got a ton of them we got to get through, and we don't have much time. So let me try to get this done. Oh yeah, I gave the wrong link, Attaché. Sorry guys, let me get the right one. I gave the direct link. I don't know if this is any different. Oh, Wall of Winds. I got it. Gotcha. I wondered what WoW was. I'm gonna put this in chat, guys. If I can find it again. Here it is. Check out that URL for those of you that are still on. Okay. Let me get back to screen share. Beautiful. All right, you all see my screen, right? Somebody confirm, please.
Good to go.
Okay, sweet. Thank you. All right, so we're going to start. Umair is the first one to come up. He says, if you have a client with multiple GMBs for different states with branded profiles and citations, as well as location pages, would it help to also get some extra citations to the location page for, like, for example, injury lawyer Miami, business name, and point to citation profile to the inner location page? Or would this cause issues with the main branded citations for the service areas that have GMBs? Yeah, I wouldn't do that. I mean, if you can find the types of citations that don't require street addresses, well, then again, if it's going to be a different city, then I would avoid that. I really would. You can just do traditional link building to those pages and you should be fine. And when I say traditional link building, I mean links with relevance, either topical or geographic relevance. Remember, geographic links has a significant influence on local, even in local organic search. Like a link with geographic relevance is more of a maps play than it is an organic play, but it certainly has an influence on organic as well. There is no question about it. I've been doing some testing recently with just using geographic links to push organic rankings, and I'm seeing results from that, which means there's no topical relevance from the link at all. It's just that it's a link coming from a blog that is relevant in terms of geography, and that it's got a backlink profile with other backlinks from local sources pointing to it already. And so for those types of posts, we don't like publish a new post onto that blog that then is about whatever topic we need it to be about, because that would be out of place. It wouldn't fit into that blog. What we do is just a block quote insertion in just some random post on the blog that says, hey, the team at our blog, the team at our blog would like to thank company name for their support. Or we would like to thank company name for their support of our blog. If you need products or services in city, contact company name. And if there's name, address, phone number, map embed, and an anchor text link, and boom, that's how we insert a link and a mention for something unrelated into a post that's on a blog that has geographic relevance. And what I found is that in recent tests that I've been doing with a lot of these local lead gen sites that I'm producing, which are just organic only assets, at least initially, until we get a client, and then we add a GBP to it. But I've been doing testing with geographic links, which I've got damn near 1,400 blogs now, geographic blogs, guys. I've got about 1,800 blogs in total right now, and about 1,350 of them are geographic blogs, so blogs with local relevance. And I've invested well over 100K in building those, and it's because I want to be able to do that and rank clients. And for the DHA program and everything else, we're going to have geographic links available, at least mostly in the US, but specifically because I'm finding that the links with geographic relevance are really producing a good result, both in maps and organic. So again, that I would say traditional link building, but when I say traditional link building, I mean links with relevance. And I wouldn't try to mess with the citation stuff. That's a different type of link, and that could affect NAP or cause location ambiguation. So you be careful with that. Carl says, do you offer a service to build and help us grow directories for prospecting? Yeah, it's our mastermind and all the SOPs. If not, what apps are you using to build the directory and outreach process to attract grid prospects? All of that is what I just shared in the DHA 3-day workshop, just finished today. It's also, everything's available in the mastermind. I use WP Geo Directories, my directory service, or site builder, whatever. But it doesn't have to be that. It can be any directory you want. We use workspace emails and instantly for cold outreach. I use high levels my CRM and for marketing automation and for websites, for hosting, for all of that. So those are the tools. I mean, that's it right there. Use workspace email, Outscraper to scrape contacts. So Outscraper to scrape contacts, workspace emails to send for email accounts, instantly to send emails. High level is my CRM and marketing automation, which I also sell high level services to my clients. Websites, reviews, a lead management app for the contractors that want it. A lot of my contractors don't want to use an app. They don't want to learn how to use it. So we set up answering services for them, call centers that answer the calls, and they still get a high level sub account. They just don't use it. A lot of my tree contractors don't use the high level account at all, but the high level is doing automations for their business anyway. That makes sense. So those are the main tools we use. That's it. It's the figuring out how to integrate everything is the tough part, but it's really once, that's why I have SOPs for all of it, so that I can help, people can learn how to set everything up properly. And then we have the DHA coaching program, which in 6 more weeks, the next phase 1 will be reopened again for the next cycle. The price will go up. The first group that we had currently was kind of beta testers. They were helping me to polish it, refine it, find areas that were needed improvement throughout the processes and the SOPs. And it's been phenomenal working with that small group. There's 14 people in the group. And I can't stress enough how important it's been, because it's really helped me to make this process better and better by getting a bunch of different people in there to point out when things don't work quite the way that I expected them to. So then I go in and fine tune the SOPs and all of that. So it's been phenomenal. And we're going to reopen that again in about 6 weeks. And the price will be higher next time, but that's just because it's going to be more polished and better, right? But anyway, I'm just pointing that out because, again, you can join a mastermind and get all the SOPs right now. We don't drip them out. You can get them immediately. And then you can stay in the mastermind and ask questions when you need help. I'm happy to help. That's what I'm there for. But the intensive coaching program, that is an additional thing, and that's only opened up once per quarter. Right. Good question though. Ian says, without buying or doing anything sketchy, what are some quick ways to boost amount of reviews? My agency has reviews for most clients, but it's really tough to get people to leave them. And it's not like I have hundreds of clients. My competitors have hundreds for their GMBs, wondering how to compete effectively. Just set up a consistent review generation campaign. You can use High Level for that, or any number of other apps. It doesn't matter. Just pick one. But be more aggressive about it. So be it. Like, if you're an agency and you provide marketing services to local businesses, I'm just assuming you are from what it sounds like, then if you have clients and through conversations or discussions that you've had with them, you've told them of the importance of reviews for their own business, then use that in your messaging when you're asking for a review. Tell them, like, hey, look, we've consulted with you about how important reviews are for your business. Well, they're equally as important for mine. So I'm asking nicely, would you please leave me a review? Like, here's the link. And if you'd like, if again, be aggressive about it. Tell them, hey, look, do this, guys. Go to ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to write a review for your business for this service that you provided, etc. And then send them the review copy, the text, and say, hey, send them the text of the review, like the language of the review, right? Say, hey, since I've asked you to leave me a review, and I know you're busy, and so you probably overlooked it. I want to make it easy on you to save time. I pre-wrote this review reply for you. All you have to do is click this link, copy, paste. If that sounds reasonable, would you do that for me, please? Ask them nicely, right? But be aggressive about it. I have one link building client, Adam. He's not on. I don't think he's here because he's on vacation right now, and he missed the last Build with Bradley meeting, and he never misses them. So I think it's because he's on vacation. But he orders more SEO audits from me than anybody else. He's ordered dozens. His standard operating procedure is every client that he's courting, when he lands them, the first thing he does is order an SEO audit from me. And I go through and do the audit. And in my audit delivery email, the last line of it is always, lastly, if you found this audit review valuable, please take a moment to leave me a review. Or if you found this audit valuable, please take a moment to leave me a review. And I've done dozens and dozens of audits for him. And I've even said in mastermind webinars and Build with Bradley meetings and stuff, like, hey, man, what do I got to do to get you to leave me a review? So last week, he ordered 3 or 4 audits again. And so in one of them, I put in real big, bold, black letters, for the love of God, leave me a review already. And sure enough, he did. Like, it was like, finally, I had to smack him over the head. Like, hey, leave me a damn review, man. Like, how many times do I have to ask? And finally he did. You know what I mean? So be a bit more aggressive, be funny about it, be cute about it if you can, as long as you've got clients that have a sense of humor. Some industries, they have no sense of humor at all. but again, just, be aggressive about it, but, intentional. Like, again, guys, I don't mind. And by the way, if you automate this stuff with SMS and email and things like that, then you could just have it go out consistently until they do. Like Adeshay just said on this call today, you want to keep following up until you either get a yes or a no, yes or go away, right? So don't be hesitant. Don't be afraid to be aggressive in your follow-up, guys, because a lot of times people are just busy. And look, I do this too, and I'll be 100% honest. How many of you guys read an SMS or you read an email, but the time is not right for you? You just don't have the time at that moment to reply, but you have full intentions to reply later, but then you forget about it, right? And it's not that you're being, mean or malicious or whatever. It's just, you forgot about it. Like, we're all human, right? I do it all the time. I see stuff that I like because I hate social media. I hate Facebook. But if people leave me a message on Facebook and I'll see it but it won't be a good time. So I'll like, oh, I'll go back and reply to it later. And then I don't. Then I know their feelings are hurt. Like, oh man, you ignored me. No, it wasn't intentional. It's not because I was intentionally ignoring somebody. It's just because I got busy. So I appreciate it when they reach back out, like, hey, just checking on this again. Oh man, thanks. Thanks for reminding me. You know what I mean? So just do it. Like, don't be afraid to be a little bit more aggressive, especially if you can work some sort of humor into it, make it easy on them, whatever. Okay. I found that to be effective. Bobby says, which CTR manipulation software are you using that helps the GMB ranking and organic search also? The only thing I use right now is Local Fury, just because I'm not doing a lot of CTR manipulation on my own. I don't have the bandwidth to manage those campaigns or the desire at this point anymore. I just don't. So I use Local Fury for CTR stuff, but mainly that's a maps play, not really an organic thing. I've been using SERP Empire for organic search and click signals. I haven't done any specific testing with that to see if it really produces a result or not. I'm assuming that it's just another kind of ranking factor that we can tickle, so to speak. So I've been using that, but I don't know how effective it is because I've not done any specific testing with just that alone. Okay. Should you use absolute or relative link addresses in internal links? That's a great question, Matthew. You've lost me. Absolute or relative link addresses. I'd have to look that up to even be able to answer it. I'm not even sure what the difference is. And I'm an SEO. I'm not a super technical SEO. I'm a local SEO guy. So I'm not sure what absolute or relative link addresses mean, to be honest with you. I can't answer that until I look it up. So, by the way, I was mentioning on the DHA 3-day workshop, the last day of it was today. Right before we ended the call, I mentioned that, at the end of a sales call, especially when you're first starting out and you're just starting sales calls, is to always have, take 5 to 10 minutes, what I call postmortem sales call analysis, right? So at the end of a call, you can record calls if you want. I don't. I just would always take at the end of a sales call, I would take 5 or 10 minutes and meditate on that call. Like what went well, what went wrong, what can I do to make the next one better? And whenever I would get a question about, in the sales call or presentation that I couldn't answer, I would just tell them, you know what, that's a great question. I don't have the answer to right now, but I'll get back to you. When we get off our call, I'll figure it out and I'll give you a call. I'll reply back with the answer. But then the reason why I bring that up is because then, if you think about what happened on the call and something like this, just right now, this question that I can't answer, then you make it a point to go find the answer. Then now you're going to be prepared for the next time that question comes up. So I'm going to make a note to go find out what the hell the difference is between an absolute or relative link is. And then next time that question comes up, I'll be able to answer it. But for right now, I can't. Matthew says, does being a manager or owner of temporary closed GBPs or GBPs affect the rankings of other GBPs? No, not of temporary close. No. I was always really nervous about keeping suspended GBPs in my account. So I would always delete those. If I got suspended, I would eliminate like all of the managers and everything. I would just like get rid of them. But as far as closed or temporary closed, no. And even stuff that's in re-verification status that's still published, like I've got a number of lead gen assets for tree stuff that got re-verification was triggered because of some change I made to the GBP, and but they're still published, so I can't make any additional changes because they're in re-verification status and I can't re-verify them, but they're still published, they're still generating leads, so I leave those in my account, even unverified, right, or re-verification status. But anything closed or suspended, not closed. I mean, closed, if it's closed, why keep it? If it's going to be permanent and closed. But if it's temporary closed, no, leave it there. It's not going to hurt anything. But if it's suspended, remove it. Permanent closed, remove it. Dave says, how are you changing your SEO with the Google search algo leak? I haven't even looked at that. I'm not even joking. I haven't even looked at it. Don't have the time for it right now. So I'm not changing anything I'm doing right now because everything I'm doing right now for local SEO is working well. And so I'm not going to change anything. I don't have time for those stupid. Look, don't get me wrong, Dave. I'm not saying that's stupid. It's every time there's an algorithm update, or in this case, a leak from Google or whatever, I just wait until like the noise settles, like everything kind of calms down a bit. And because usually by then the cooler heads have more about what's going on. There's usually a bunch of noise and just bullshit around algorithm updates and leaks like this and stuff where it's just a bunch of chatter and a bunch of crap. And I learned a long time ago just to ignore all it, just wait, give everything a little bit of time for the dust to settle. And then that's when I'll go in and start analyzing it. And most of the time, unless it has a direct effect on something like projects that I manage, I don't even care what it was, honestly. And that's just because, again, I've been doing this for almost 15 years and there's been a lot of changes. And I used to get caught up in all the changes whenever they occurred too, like most people do, or at least, especially when you're immature in your business. In other words, like don't have a lot of experience. And I'm not saying that that's you, Dave. I'm not saying that at all. Just saying I've learned over the years just to ignore all that stuff unless it's had a direct impact on my projects or clients' projects that I manage. There's no sense in me wasting mental energy on reading all that stuff and analyzing it and everything else when it doesn't have a direct effect on my business or my clients' businesses. So I just ignore all that stuff until and unless it has a direct impact, and then I will jump on it. But like I said, guys, I just do a ton of testing in local SEO for my own industry, and then when I find stuff that I can that produce repeatable results consistently, then I start implementing that on client projects, and then I start teaching that. That's it. So I do a lot of testing, and I don't get caught up in all that stuff unless it has a direct impact on my projects. Okay. So I'm not poo-pooing that, to be honest. I have not had time to look at it right now. I don't have any desire to either. Okay. How are schema markup codes useful for local SEO? Alan says. Well, schema tells its language specifically for the search engines to describe what the page is about or elements of the page. And so local SEO, I don't do a lot of advanced schema. I use schemawriter.ai for local business schema, which also produces organization schema. And then I use inlinks.com for web page schema for all other pages. So all I do is organization schema on the homepage of the sites that I manage for local. And then we do local business schema with the appropriate subtype. In my industry, it's home and construction business on the location landing page. And then for all other pages on the site, we just do web page schema. And that's it. And I use Inlinks for that. And Inlinks automates that for all the other pages. So I don't do a lot of advanced schema, guys. I don't think it's necessary for local, not in the industries that I'm in or the industry that I'm in. So I just focus on local SEO, mainly on organization for the homepage, and then local business schema for the location landing page. And then web page schema I use through Inlinks because it makes it easy to manage for all other pages. That's it. So I keep it simple. I don't do a lot of advanced schema. For those of you in much more competitive industries and stuff, that's going to be more relevant, more necessary. But for local, I found in most industries, as long as you have thoroughly well optimized schema, like I said, organizations, local business schema that says knows about, same as attributes are good, and mentions, all of that kind of stuff. That's pretty powerful for most local businesses. Okay. Again, more competitive stuff is probably going to require more, but I don't work in those industries. So I'm not the person to be able to answer questions about schema other than what I just answered. Bill says, are you part of any other masterminds? I've heard about yours and thinking about it. Just curious if you are in them too. Yeah, I go in and out of masterminds. I've been in Client Ascension, which is Daniel Fazio's. He's the cold email black hat, whatever. He has really good cold email stuff. I started learning cold email in part through Daniel Fazio. So Client Ascension was a good one. And then closers.io, which is a sales team accelerator. Stupid expensive, but I've been in that, which is really good sales training. Really, it's stupid expensive, but it's really good sales training. So, and I've been focusing for the last 3 or 4 years on direct marketing and sales a lot, which has had a significant impact on my businesses and revenue. So again, I am in and out of masterminds. So I'm not in a lot of SEO masterminds because, like I said, I just play around in local and figure out what works in my industry and then test it and just share that with others. It's not that I'm opposed to learning from other SEOs. I don't have a lot of time. So to invest in that. So I just do a lot of testing on my own is what I do. It would be valuable if I had more time to join some other SEO groups because I love to glean information from other groups and create my own flavor out of it. And I always recommend everybody do the same thing. Like if you have the bandwidth and the time to be able to join multiple groups, and if you have the, and the money to do it, then do it. Because if you're going to get good at SEO, guys, and I recommend everybody broaden their horizons and not just focus on SEO, but learn how to, be good at growing businesses. And the way, if anybody's listening to me at all, you know that I'm going to tell you to pick a particular industry and learn everything you can about that business, that industry. So that you're not just an SEO, but an actual growth consultant in a specific industry. That elevates your value so much. But if you have the bandwidth, the desire, and the resources to join multiple groups, then you kind of mix and match, and like you take a little bit from here and a little bit from there, and you create your own flavor of SEO or business development or whatever. And that's what I've always done, right? And I always give credit to those that I've learned from, and I think you should too. So anyway, that's what I do. We're at 5 o'clock, guys. I got 4 more questions. I'm going to try to roll through these. Adam, if you got to go. I don't even know if he's still here.
Yeah,
Roy says,
it's date night, so I might disappear real quick.
yeah,
but
go
I'll
ahead,
be here
dude.
for a
Bounce
minute.
off, man. I appreciate it, man. I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, guys, I got 4 more left. I'm only going to stay a couple minutes later just because Adishay took up half of it, which was fine. I thought that was gold, by the way. I appreciate him coming on. Roy says, hey, Bradley, what's going on? I have a couple specific questions about land flipping. I'll be damned. Okay. So I offered a landowner. This is funny. Anybody that is not interested in this at all, you all can go. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to answer this one from Chris Goulburn first, because this is an SEO related question, and I'll spend the last couple of minutes answering the questions about land flipping. That way you all can bounce if you need to. Chris says, hi, Brad, are you able to record a video of how you analyze the GBP search results in Bright Local? It would be good to know how you break down all the info. Let me just go this way. It'd be a little bit easier, but especially useful to know what data to present to a client to be able to offer them local SEO. Yeah, I suppose I could. Chris, I don't think you're in our mastermind yet, are you? You're one of my contacts from Semantic Links, I believe. I think I just sent you a competition analysis review video earlier this week. I do so many of those, Chris, forgive me if that wasn't you, but the name seems very familiar, like from this week. Anyway, can I do that? Yeah, I probably can. Yeah, I can do that. I don't know when it's going to get done, Chris, but I can. And if you remind me, if that's the same Chris that I think it is, and if you ping me in Semantic Links and remind me there, I'll have a written record of it in Semantic Links, which I always respond to those. So I'm just going to make a note of this. How to review Bright Local data. I'll try to get it done, Chris, but I'm gonna need a reminder, I'm sure. I've got quite a full plate right now, just to be clear. It's a good question though. And yeah, I'm sure that'll be valuable to others as well, Chris. So I'll get it done. All right. So questions on land flipping. Anybody that's not interested in this, feel free to go. See you guys next week. I'm going to answer these and then I'm done for the day. I have a couple of specific questions about land flipping. So I offered a landowner 25 grand for his land with the idea that it's worth 140 grand. He got back to me and said he doesn't understand my offer. So I asked him how much he thinks his land is worth. And he says he thinks it's worth 180. He said he's willing to sell it for 100,000. I told him I'd recalculate my offer and send him a new offer. When the seller first reached out to me, he had already told me that he would like to close in 3 weeks. On Zillow, 2 pieces of land of the exact same size in the exact same area were sold 350 and 325 respectively. So I think if I put this land under contract for 100 grand, I should still be able to make a profit off selling this land, even for half of its market value, which is 162.5. Here's my first question. At this point, should I still counter the seller with an offer lower than 100,000 he's willing to sell the land for, or should I just go ahead and accept this 100,000 and put this land under contract? According to the seller, there's no lien, no mortgage, no outstanding back taxes on the land. Although when I talked to a realtor about this land, she told me that there's a mortgage on the land, but I'll find out when a title search is done. Correct. Anytime you land a contract, as soon as the ink is dry or, electronically signed, whatever, as soon as you get the ratified purchase and sale agreement, the first thing you do is order a title search. Yes, that's an expense, but it is a small price to pay, because before you start, and most title search, well, I don't know how the workload is now. It's been 3-4 years since I've done this, but most title search companies can get a title search done in about a week. If they're any good, they can. And so you'll know very quickly whether it's a marketable property or not. a marketable contract. Because remember, you're not selling the property, you're selling the contract, right? Unless you're doing a double closing, which I don't recommend. Just do an assignment of contract. And that's a much better way to do it. And so if you're selling your contract, then get a title search. And as soon as you get the title search back, as long as it's free and clear and it's a clean title that's transferable, then you can market it. Now, if you've got comps that are good comps that showed that it's sold, also look at the time on market, like days on market and everything else. How long did it take for them to sell? Right? If you're selling at 50% market value, if your valuation is indeed correct, and you're selling at 50% market value, you're likely going to be able to get it sold fairly quickly. Well, depending on what the turnaround time on these were, right? The days on market, et cetera. Yes, you can do it. Just understand if the guy said he wants to close in 3 weeks and you're looking to flip the contract instead of actually purchasing it, then in my contracts, when I did land flipping, it was a 180-day closing window. Like it would say 180 days from the date that this purchase and sale agreement was ratified was when the closing date, on or before 180 days after the date that the purchase and sale agreement was ratified. That's the language that I used. That gave me 6 months to market the property and sell it. And yes, I would hear some grief from land sellers at times. They would say, well, why do I need to wait 6 months? And I would always say, because I've got multiple deals in progress and some of them have to close to free up funds for me to close on this one. That wasn't really the truth. I mean, I did have multiple deals in progress at all times, but it wasn't to free up funds. It was just because I needed more time to find a buyer. And so, in some cases, if the deal was solid enough, or I thought there was enough potential and everything else, I might shorten the time frame. But it was rare because I would usually say, no, I'm sorry. Like, it's just, if I need 6 months in the contract, we often will close in 90 days, or, within 3 months, or we often close earlier or whatever. But the whole point here is that you need to have that time to be able to flip the contract. And so, if you say 3 weeks, you're going to have, I don't know what market you're in or anything else, but you might have a very hard time flipping that contract in 3 weeks. That seems awfully short. Because even if you get a buyer, unless you got a cash buyer, they're going to want, to do their due diligence too. And then you got to set up closing and all that other kind of stuff, or an assignment of contract, which in the closing company who they choose is still going to have to set up the closing. Right? You don't have any control over that as an assignment of contract. They do, the buyer does. But again, there's always time that goes in. So I wouldn't take on a land flipping deal without at least 4 months, 120 days. If that makes sense. If somebody, unless it was a slam dunk. Like, by the way, if you're flipping land and when you start marketing properties, build a buyer's list. Build a list of buyers that are interested, who have responded to your ads for the properties that you're selling or the contracts that you're selling. Because now you have people that have already expressed an interest in purchasing property. As long as you're farming an area where you're targeting the same area, then now you've got a buyer's list that you can send that property to when you get a property under contract, because they were already interested in property in that area. So that makes sense. Another thing is neighbor letters, right? If you lock a property up under contract, send letters to all the adjacent property owners saying, hey, I got this property available. Before I advertise it to the public market, I wanted to give you, as an adjacent property owner, first crack at it. Are you interested? Right? So again, try to sell those properties first, because again, that's something where you can do that. Well, you got to be careful. I'd wait till I get it under contract first, but you can send neighbor letters directly to the adjacent property and nearby property owners. I've sold properties to property owners that weren't adjacent, but they were in the same neighborhood or just down the street. So again, neighbor letters. So nearby property owners are also really good. So again, I don't know about that one. 3 weeks, not with that kind of time frame. Again, it would be bare minimum 120. I wouldn't do it for any less than 120 days. But most of the time, I would tell people flat out, no, I need 180 days. And if they didn't like it, we just back out of the deal. And by the way, in my contracts, it would always state, buyer reserves the right to cancel the contract at any time for any reason. So at any time, I could just cancel the contract if I found, like, through marketing of the property, that I couldn't get it sold, or that there was, a lot of times, not I think I flipped 34 properties in 2 years, vacant land properties, and I only went and looked at 2 of them. Every other one that I bought and sold or flipped via internet, never even went to see the properties. And so sometimes you will land a property under contract, and then when you start sending potential buyers out to the property to go look at it, they come back and tell you that they found, like, this problem or that problem or whatever. And now you found out, because you might not have seen the property yourself, now you found out there's problems with the property, they're going to make it hard to sell. So you want that ability to cancel out and back out of it. That makes sense. So I don't know. It all depends on what kind of time frame you have and everything else. My biggest concern is not being able to find a buyer for the lands. I'm considering using a realtor. You can, but if you're going to do that, use flat fee MLS. I think it's flatfeemls.com. No, it's not that one. There's another one. I'd have to go back through my notes. It's been so well. God damn it. Brokerless. Let's try brokerless. This is it. Use that one. Brokerless. The owner of that company will respond to you via email, but use them. It's a flat fee MLS listing. All you need is the $99 one. And then you can set what you're going to pay and everything else, but that'll get your property into the listing. And then buyer's agents will approach you with buyers that are interested in property. But that way you're not paying a listing fee. You don't need to pay a listing fee. You can list it yourself. This company will do it for you. This is the company I use. And so, yeah, I mean, you can do that with realtors. Just keep in mind that realtors, most realtors I talk to have no idea what the fuck they're doing. And that is not a joke. A lot of the times they'll tell you, you can't do that, when you absolutely can, because most realtors don't really know a damn thing about real estate and contract law, etc. So just be aware of that. When you bring a realtor in, it can mess everything up, because they're gonna a lot of times they have no clue as to what it is that you're doing. Just be aware of that. Realtors are a pain in the ass when it comes to flipping properties. Just be aware of that. So I don't know if I answered your question. I think if I would have enough time frame, then maybe 3 weeks is certainly not enough. I wouldn't even take it on. I wouldn't even approach it for that unless you had potential buyers already in place, if that's clear. But I mean, you can try it, but just know that you're likely not going to sell it with that kind of time frame. I'm not trying to discourage you, but just find another deal. That's the whole point, guys. Same thing I tell SEO member or people in SEO. You try to make every deal work in SEO when you don't have a lead flow, right? You bend over backwards, twist yourself like a pretzel to try to land a client and promise the moon just so you can land the damn client, and allow the client to add more and more work to your scope, right? You scope creep, so that you keep that revenue because you're reliant on it, because you don't have other leads, other potential revenue sources in the pipeline. And the land flipping business is the same way. You will bend over backwards to try to make a deal work when you don't have enough leads coming in. But if you got enough leads coming in, then you can tell somebody to go shit in their hat, right? Go kick rocks. I'm not interested in your offer. And you don't have to be shitty about it, like I just was. But I mean, essentially, you can fire that prospect, or get because you have other potential deals. If that makes sense. Makes it a lot easier to cherry pick when you've got other deals. If that makes sense. All right, so very quickly, also to follow up my previous question on land flipping, how would we suggest go about finding a good title company, presuming one that is reliable? Just call. What you want to do is just literally go to Google and search for closing companies. Look for either title companies or closing companies, depending on the state. Sometimes it requires a law firm to be involved, so there will be a closing attorney too. But what you want to do is just do some Google searches, find some that have decent reviews, and then just call them and tell them what you're doing. Be honest. Look, I'm buying and selling property, or I'm flipping properties. If you're not actually taking ownership, you're not buying and selling. Just say I'm flipping properties, I'm doing vacant land, I'm getting properties under contract, and then I'm doing an assignment of contract. Can you handle those closings? Because some title companies will tell you that no, you can't do that, and they're wrong. Other title companies or closing companies will say yes, or say no, you can do that, but we don't do that here. But then other title companies will do it. So just do Google searches, look for those that have decent reviews, and then just call them and ask them. Tell them exactly what you're doing. Okay. Last one is, for more background information concerning my question about land flipping, this is in New Jersey, and New Jersey is a title state as far as I'm aware. Thanks. Yeah, I'm not familiar with New Jersey. I only flipped properties in Virginia, and I did one in West Virginia. That was it. So all my real estate experience is in the state of Virginia. And in the state of Virginia, it's title companies that have a closing attorney on staff. Like the title company can prepare all the closing documents, but it's an attorney that has to sign off on them. So I don't know if that helps or not, but okay, guys, that was it. Appreciate everybody. Thanks everyone for being here. We will see you guys next week.